Hello, Night Nation. Proud to let you know that the Sons of UCF podcast is presented by the law firm of Gordon and Partners. Since 1993, Gordon and Partners have been dedicated to the pursuit of justice for those who have been wrongfully injured at no fault of their own. It's important that you get legal advice from somebody you trust. So contact UCF alum Michael Hoffman directly if you have any legal needs or questions. Visit their website at www.fortheinjured.com or text 407-913-5350 to speak directly to Michael. Don't trust just anybody. Trust the best. And trust a fellow knight. Gordon and Partners, for the injured.
This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports. With your distinguished host, Adam.
Let's all get together and see who can solve the Wordle the fastest.
And Mike.
You know, last year I think I said about 30 people in the UCF Sons of UCF group. Let's try to double that. Let's try to get 50.
Now, here are the guys.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are the Sons of UCF. This is episode number 180. Can you believe that, Mike? Episode 180 for the Sons of UCF. Who would have thunk it? My name is Adam, and I already said his name, but he's here again for another week. Mr. UCF Mike is back. Mike, how are you?
Doing great. Never would I have thought 180 episodes. It seems like a lot. At the same time, it doesn't seem like that big of a number, right? 180, but it feels like we've done like thousands of these. I guess you add in the live shows, and we've been doing it now for like 4 years. I think it's been going on.
It's a long time, yeah.
It's a heck of a ride.
I'll tell you what, a funny story off the top of the show. As I often will go through and I'll try to think of some guests and people to have on, and I was going through some rosters the other day. I legit had to stop and be like, "Do we have him on already?" Like that's how long we've been doing the show. There are some people I have to remember if we actually had them on. So maybe that makes us old.
Well, it happens to me all the time. You bring up a name and you say, "Yeah, he was on the show." Like, he was.
That's fair.
I just forgot.
I expect that of you, though. I expect more out of myself. But what you can expect at episode 180, then, Mike, here's what we got. We got an interesting interview tonight. Here's the way I think about interviews, Mike. One of two things. I either want you to be like, "Oh my goodness, that's such a great get. I'd love to hear from this person," or, "Oh my goodness, I forgot all about that person," right? And in tonight's episode, it's probably one of those that you forgot about this person because he was only at UCF for one season, and it's probably a season all of us want to forget. But it was still cool to kind of hear the backstory, sort of what went on behind the scenes. He played a big role in it. And sort of how all that came together. And that's Bo Schneider, who quarterbacked us during that 2015 winless season. So good to catch up with Bo. Again, probably not a name that's on the top of your brains, but for the long-suffering UCF fan, definitely a name you know. So you don't want to miss our conversation with Bo. We got Cow of the Week coming up after that. We'll talk more about it and whatever else is going on, Mike. You know, we got some good headlines we'll get to in a second. But before we do that, make sure off the top you heard we are sponsored by Gordon and Partners. Make sure you check them out at fortheinjured.com, Mike. And the headlines for this week are really kind of dominated on the diamond. We speculated about this last week. There's been some thought, there's been some talk. No one was really sure what would happen. We all expected the rug to be pulled out from under us. And lo and behold, it was not. UCF softball is hosting a regional, the number 16 seed, so really the last seed to get a host region, Mike. So we will have playoff softball at the Plex this weekend. We'll get into the matchups and all that, but just big picture, how big a deal is this that we've got the regional here in our backyard in Orlando?
Well, it's a huge deal. We made school history. Never has been done before, so that's very cool. Softball team deserves it. I was completely wrong. I thought we were going to get shafted on this thing. I'm happy that I'm wrong. And these girls have put out a season this year that was fantastic from the very beginning. Some very big-time wins, some dramatic walk-off victories, solid performances, record-setting performances. Jada Cody with the RBI record. Mancha's having a fantastic year. So I'm very happy that we're hosting. And now that we're here and we have the games at home, you got to win them, right? Let's not just sit on our laurels here and say, "Hey, we made history already. Now let's go out and win this thing starting this weekend."
I don't think I have any laurels, nor have I sat on them. But obviously UCF gets there by virtue of winning the conference regular season, and then we win the conference championship. Mike, let's start there really quickly. We rule the Cows in the conference title game, 5 innings, and essentially that we wipe them off the board to win another trophy. Nothing better than run ruling your rival to win a title again. That was an awesome game. Obviously, Jada Cody broke the RBI record during that game, Mike. But nothing better than embarrassing your rival school to hang up another trophy in the case, something the Cows know nothing about.
Exactly. Yeah, that's always great. We have ended their season on multiple sports this year. Did their softball team make the big tournament?
They did. Yes. I was going to bring this up later on. I don't know, maybe a precursor to the Cow of the Week. They sent out a graphic and basically said we're in, whatever region they're in. They said number 2 seed. They had to delete that because they're actually the 3 seed. So they had to put out another graphic actually correcting that they were the 3 seed.
Well, I was going to say, because if they didn't make it, that means we would end their season in football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and now softball. But I guess they got a couple more games to play. But the game that counted, championship game, and we beat them up soundly. Run rule, that's an embarrassment.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's no better rubbing it in than the run ruling of it. And I mean, this is a Cow team that earlier in the year, tried to say they're going to sweep us, and there was all this controversy, and this was going to be their year, and turns out, and none of that comes true, Mike. But so far, this is the Knights' year, and Friday starts the big tournament, Mike. So a couple things to know for you newbies to softball, which is probably me and Mike as well. But here's the deets that you need to have. Friday at the Plex, it's a double elimination tournament. So there are games, the winner's bracket, then there's a loser's bracket, so double elimination. UCF will start off Friday night playing against Villanova. They are the Big East champ, so certainly a reputable school. Also inside this regional is number 23 Michigan and South Dakota State. Michigan features Carol Hutchins. She is the all-time wins leader in college softball. Who knew that, Mike? Fun fact. Michigan actually also beat us once this year, 6-0 in the tournament in February, Mike. So we obviously, as the 16 seed, we probably didn't get the most advantageous draw. So a tough bracket with Villanova, Michigan, and South Dakota State. Again, double elimination tournament. Fun fact also, UCF the first mid-major, quote-unquote, to host since 2016 with James Madison, Mike. So you said it off the top. Just hosting shouldn't be good enough. The expectations are we should win this thing, right? I mean, where's your bar at in terms of what you want to see happen this weekend here with the regional?
Well, we've got to be the favorites, right? The home team usually in these regionals are the favorite teams.
Higher seed right now for sure, yep.
Right. Now, you mentioned that Michigan's going to be a tough out. It's going to be interesting how they set up the pitching. I would save Mancha for the second game, I guess would be the Michigan game. And if you stay out of that loser's bracket after the first 2 games, you're in really good shape. I mean, somebody'd have to come back and beat you twice in a row at home. That'd be tough for anybody to do to us. So I'm feeling confident, unless something weird happens in that first or second game. I think we're in a very good spot. And this team has shown that they can play with anybody. They can win games a lot of different ways. We can win a 1-0 game with the pitching, and we can win some slugfest the way our hitters hit too. So I feel very good about this weekend. I think the crowd is going to be electric out there. It's going to be a packed house. You got we don't have a name for them. They're not the bleacher creatures, obviously, and it's not the Love Shack. They have some other name. What do they call it out there in left field?
Oh,
they have the parties that you went to, and
there is something over. I forget what they call it. I'll have to look that up. It's like the left field crew or something like that. Something funny like that.
We need to come up with a better name, whatever it is.
All right.
And but I expect the place to be jumping, man. Standing room only. They need to let as many people as they can. Let them stand up against the fence, get loud. And that's going to help these girls power through this weekend, man, and make some more history. Go on to the next round, go on to the super regional, and see how far this thing can go. You never know.
Well, the good news is, I mean, UCF softball has played a lot of, quote unquote, higher ranked opponents throughout the last couple of seasons. And we've had victories. Georgia comes to mind, and we beat Florida. So we've had experience, playing, blue blood style, Power 5 style programs, and haven't backed down in those moments. So you hope that the moment doesn't end up being too big. And obviously that probably the biggest concern is the nerves, and trying to calm yourself down a little bit. So hopefully, they'll draw on that experience, and the moment won't be too big for them. But I mean, certainly this is going to be a tough bracket, right? I mean, to your point, you got to win that first one against Villanova to get yourself in the driver's seat to be able to at least face Michigan or South Dakota State. And then if you get a win there, you set yourself up in nice company. But you got to take one at a time. But this is a team, I guess, if you look at the positives, here's a couple things. One, I mean, we've seen them come back, right? We see, they're not out of it until the last out. And that's been a theme all season long. We've seen so many walk-offs. Shannon Doherty just seems to be the queen of the walk-off at this point. So they're not out of it until really the last out. And again, they've played some big games, Mike. You got to hope that they draw on that experience and have some of that, some of that fire to be able to compete. Not that they won't, but just to have some of that, experience, some of that knowledge, just understanding that they've been here before. The moment hopefully won't be too big.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think these girls are ready to go. This is something they've been preparing for all year. I think they're ready for the moment. And, we are the better team. And the better team doesn't always win in softball. It's like baseball, and you can get beat by a team that's not even close to as good as you on any given day. But, when we have all the advantages that we do, being at home, not having to travel, knowing the way the field is laid out, all those little things help out. I think we're in a very good spot. I expect us to win. I expect us to win the whole thing and move on to the next round. And then when you get to the super regional, 2 out of 3, anybody can beat anybody. It's anybody's game after that. So we can be in for a nice little run here with the softball team. Yeah,
super regional would set us up against it would essentially, it's the Oklahoma region. So Oklahoma, the defending champion from last year. So that would be sort of the matchup that we would face if we get out of there. But again, a lot of work to be done in advance. Here's the first thing, Mike. Let's hope this thing is packed. I mean, I know I saw today tickets were going pretty good. This is a great opportunity to get out and see some postseason play on campus. That doesn't happen all the time, right? So let's hope they pack that house. I know you had been positing maybe we even throw some seats on top of some of the nearby structures over there, but let's hope that at least that stadium and even that left field area is packed out there on Friday night.
Yeah, and I know I keep getting ahead of myself with the next round, but it's already paired up the regions. The winner of this region automatically plays the winner of that other region, the Oklahoma region. So let's say there's an upset over there, and the 3 seed wins. Are we back home again for the super regional? It works that way?
I don't. It's a great question. I don't know. I don't think anyone's expecting Oklahoma to lose that, but I guess it's a possibility. I'm not sure I know that answer, though.
Right.
What I do know, by the way,
possible.
Is that left field area. They call it Left Field Lounge at the Plex is what it's called.
All right. And if you drop Elo's name, you get free food and beer. I don't know if the same is it's going on during the postseason. You might have to drop a couple bucks.
Yeah.
At least pitch in a little bit, but there's definitely a party out there.
Well, I mean, Cost-Seg Advisor is out there. Denali's family is out there too, so you'll see some luminaries if you're out there. It's Cost-Seg and some players' families.
Kevin Reese is out there. Kevin Reese is all over the place.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure Kevin Reese is all over the grounds. Look, it'll be a cool experience. It'll be an awesome opportunity. Probably the funnest thing, though, I mean, you saw those videos of all the team gathered at Island Wing Company, kind of waiting for the announcement, and then as it kept building and building and building, it was kind of, you could tell there was that glimmer of excitement. Then you see Texas get announced as not being a host, which was really probably the only other school that was in UCF's way, Mike. And that kind of stuff's really cool. I mean, the celebration, how genuine the fun was for everybody. I know Trace was out there getting some videos. I saw a bunch of stuff out there. That's always cool to see is watching people celebrate and see where their faith's taking them and recognizing that they accomplished something pretty cool for UCF.
Yep. And if you wanted to know any of this in advance, all you had to do is follow Eric Lopez, because I don't know how he does it, but I think he nailed the field like 64 out of 64 teams. I think he nailed all 16 host teams. He pretty much predicted the exact bracket the way it was. And nobody knows more about softball, college softball, than Eric Lopez. We're lucky that he's the voice of our team. And if we have a couple exciting walk-offs, he's going to be the guy you're going to hear on the highlights. And he does a fantastic job with it. I'm very happy for him. And I hope for his sake, this team goes on a big run.
Well, I don't know. Does he get to call these games? I don't know how this works. I haven't seen him announcing. I haven't talked to him about it. But obviously, it's the postseason. So do they bring in other announcers, or will Elo get a chance to call these games? I don't know. That's a big if, Mike. I gotta send him a message and find out, because that's a big. I need to know if Elo's in the booth.
he's got to be in there. And even if it's not for TV or ESPN Plus or anything, at least is there a radio call on this? He's got to. If there's not, he still has to be in there and do it and broadcast it over Twitter or something. Spaces. We want to hear Elo's voice. We don't want to hear anybody else calling this. That drives me nuts about postseason in any sport. You watch your team all year with your announcers, the guys that follow the team. They travel with them all year. They know your team better than anybody. Then all of a sudden you get to the biggest games of the year and you get this guy flying in from South Dakota, has never heard of anybody. He does his research the day before, pronounces your players' names wrong, and you got to sit there and listen to that for the rest. Get out of here with that crap. Elo's got to do the games from here all the way through the College World Series.
Yeah. No, it happened against the Cows, Mike. The announcers failed to recognize that we had a different left fielder in, and so they kept thinking Volpe was out there the entire game when she had left early in the first inning, and they didn't figure that out until like the sixth inning. So it certainly is a phenomenon. I've messaged Elo to see if he's calling games. I will see if he gets back to us in a time which allows me to bring that update to you, Mike. But either way, first off, go ahead. Sorry.
What might be better than Elo if he's not calling the games is Elo partying out there in left field. Then you get to hang with him during the game. That might even be better.
He could, yeah. You probably sell some tickets. He probably do his own little remote show in the left field lounge out there.
The left field Lopez lounge.
Oh boy, would that get a UCF Mike appearance? Would that get you to get in your car and drive those 3 hours up there to hang out with Eric Lopez in the left field Lopez lounge? Any chance of that happening?
3 hours.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to happen.
No. All right, that's where that stops. Yeah.
It's just not happening. You got too much other stuff going on. We got the Panthers in the playoffs. You know all the other things that are going on this weekend. You got softball still with the girls. It's not going to work.
Mike's priorities have been revealed. A couple of other congratulations we mentioned off the top. Jada Cody is now the all-time UCF single-season leader in RBIs. She knocked in essentially a home run. It was a home run against the Cows to take that crown, Mike. So Jada Cody, congrats to her. She was on our live show. That was cool to see a former live show guest, now a record holder at UCF. Mike, that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. I mean, these records, they say records are meant to be broken. This one's been around for a little while. And, you can't take anything away from her. She was on pace to break this thing a while ago. It took her maybe a couple little more games than I thought it would. But she got there, and she got there before the postseason, so it counts. And good for her, man.
I like how Mike's not quite happy with the time frame of the record, but he'll take the record nonetheless. You mentioned pitching, Mike. It's going to be a tough pitching region as well. I saw Elo's breakdown on it today. Obviously, UCF's going to throw two of their aces. Gianna Mancha, 21-3 on the year. Kama Woodall, 17-4. So let's see if pitching holds up. Obviously, Mancha, to your point, is kind of our staff ace. Pitched 168 innings this year, Mike. 1.7 ERA. So if she's on, if Jada Cody, Shannon Doherty are swinging the bats, Mike, it could be a good thing. It could be a good thing for sure.
She's a caballo for sure, and she is the horse.
Well, I have breaking news. Sorry, I have breaking news. Yep. Elo is not going to be calling the game on ESPN. They're bringing their own people. He's working on something, though, is what he's telling me here.
That's a travesty. That can't happen. And he's got to do something. And he's going to do it from the outfield, at least Twitter Space, something. We got to hear the Elo call. Something exciting happens. But I got to get the Elo highlights, or at least call it in some soundproof booth away from somebody, and then you match up the video with it later on. Whatever you got to do, it's going to be better than whatever ESPN's going to give you.
Well, stay tuned. I don't want to steal all of Eric's thunder on whatever he's going to announce this week, but looks like he's not on the TV call, but maybe he's working on something. So what a travesty that is. Travesty.
You know what he can do, and he did it for me. He called the highlight of one of my daughter's softball plays. So if this thing did come down to a thrilling finish, I'm sure he can go into the studio, whip something up real quick, and have the Elo call on the play, the way it should be.
Yeah, well, stay tuned. I'll let him announce whatever that is. Looks like he's working on something. I don't want to steal his thunder because I'm sure he wants to announce that in his own particular podcast. But what a travesty that'll end up being, Mike. But get out to the Plex this week. At least turn the game on. I think it's 6 o'clock Friday, first pitch. Root on the Knights. It's a fun opportunity. Again, nothing better. I know, Mike, you've often said College World Series is one of your, outside of football and basketball, your favorite sport. So a fun event. Get out and support if you can. Turn on the game. Get on Twitter and root on your team. It'll be a good opportunity.
Yeah, and it's school spirit, all that stuff. It's a good time. You get to go out there with some people you went to UCF with, and you go out there, you watch a ball game, you have a couple of hot dogs, you have a beer, What's wrong with that? Friday night under the lights? What's better than doing that? What are you guys going to do? You going to go watch a movie or something? No. We'll watch the softball game.
You're not going to be there. Are you going to watch it at least?
Yeah, I'm going to watch it.
Okay, all right. We got
Time does it start on Friday?
I think it's 6 o'clock.
All right. Yeah, 6 o'clock Friday. I got nothing.
You got a little less committed there once you heard the time, but okay. All right, here's what I need. I need a selfie of you watching the game. I need, at one point during the game, just as like proof of life, I need you with the newspaper. I need you with a selfie with the softball game on behind you. That's what we need, okay? That's what all the Sons of UCF listeners, they demand to see UCF Mike watching the game.
All right, I can make that happen.
All right. Proof of life coming soon for UCF Mike. That's softball news, Mike. Let's go over to football quickly. Today, interesting news breaking on two sides. First, Christopher Mall, who was a transfer linebacker coming from UAB. He was a guy with 1 year left and played really well at UAB for a couple of years, had an injury, was kind of floating around the portal. No one picked him up, and he decided to go to UCF. We were all excited about Christopher Mall until today when we learned that Christopher Mall would not be coming to UCF. He essentially decommitted. I think Brandon Hellwig from UCF Sports is positing some potential locations. Pacific Northwest potentially is where his compass is pointed. So we get Chris Mall decommitment news, and then a couple hours later we get Brandon Jennings commitment news. Brandon Jennings, a former 4-star linebacker out of Jacksonville, spent his freshman year at Maryland, then left Maryland to go to Kansas State for about 2.5 months. Left Kansas State and is now committed to UCF. No clarity yet on his eligibility. It seems most likely he'll need a waiver, Mike, but Christopher Mall out, Brandon Jennings in, although maybe not for this year. Grade that transaction wire for me. What did we win? Did we lose? How do I feel about this?
This Christopher Mall must have listened to me on the show a couple times, because the couple times we talked about him, I was never that thrilled about it.
Okay, so he's like, you know what? No, Mike, I'm out of here. I like it.
Yeah, we got a guy from UAB. I kept downplaying it. Yeah, UAB's not been bad the last couple of years, but I never really got excited over it. Of course, we need bodies at linebacker, and he was a guy, as Gus would say.
He's a guy,
but he's not a guy anymore. He's out of here.
Well, he's still a guy. He still might be a guy. Actually, not sure how that works.
Probably. Oh, nowadays, who the heck knows? I don't know.
Okay, well, fair enough.
He's out of here. He's not our guy. That's for sure. So he's out. Jennings in. The whole transfer thing, it's not my thing. I don't like it. You don't get the same attachment with these players when they're here 1 year. They're gone the next. They're all mercenaries nowadays. They're all out looking out for themselves. Where can I make the most money? What's the best situation? It's professional sports, basically, is what it's become. Free agency. It's basically like we just traded this guy. We just got him from UAB and we sent him over to the Pacific Northwest. Now we got somebody. And this kid, how committed is he? This is his third school in the last 10 minutes. And I'm not going to throw any parties for Jennings getting here. He may be gone in 2 weeks too. So until I see these guys actually on the field, making tackles and being a part of winning, it's hard for me to get excited about it. He's another guy. Here he is. Is he going to play? We'll find out.
All right, let's cancel the Brandon Jennings party at Mike's house. That'll be done. If he does play, Mike, I know these things about him. He's 6'3". He's 230 pounds. His freshman year at Maryland, he had 23 tackles. He was the number 18 recruit in the state of Florida in 2021. So he's got some bona fides. Big kid, linebacker, position of need. But again, there's no guarantee on the waiver of transfer. I know a lot of people are saying he'll get that Gatewood, third school waiver and whatever. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, don't forget, he's coming from Kansas State, who is going to be a Big 12 foe of ours in probably 1 year from now. Jennings has 3 years left. So is Kansas State owed us any favors? I mean, we've seen these waivers sort of drag on and on and on and on. Individual schools kind of get to determine, I guess, their process for this kind of stuff. So no guarantee this kid even, sees the field, at least by the start of fall camp. Maybe at some point during the season he gets that waiver signed. Maybe he doesn't get that waiver signed. I don't know. So there's no guarantee on this one. So linebacker, though, is we're thinning out by the day here. Obviously, Terrence Lewis's situation is still kind of up in the air. Really no new developments from that standpoint. UCF has not really released anything officially on his status and what's happening with him. Obviously, we know we lose Christopher Mall now, who was a guy, to your point, coming in. We know we have JJB. We know we have Johnson coming in from the FCS ranks. So Jennings really, even though he's just a guy and no longer invited to the party at your house, if he's going to be on the field next year, that's a party you want him at, because we need depth there, Mike. Plain and simple. I don't care if you've been there 10 minutes or 10 hours. I need depth on the linebacker spot. He would definitely serve that need.
Yeah, there's a party at the quarterback and everybody's invited. This guy, if he can get there, that'd be great. I don't expect Kansas State to make a big fuss about it, because what do they care? We don't play them this year anyway. And if they did make a thing about it and extended it, then that would just mean he had more years to play against them, right? You'd have like another 3 after this year of eligibility. So I don't think that's going to factor in at all, or I don't think it should anyway. But can this guy make a difference? Can he come in and be a starter? Let's hope so, because this is the position that we all know is the weakest on the roster. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm expecting somewhere probably in the middle. Who knows? I don't know what to expect out of any of these kids anymore, especially the kids that can't make up their mind where they want to go to school. Figure that part out first, and then once you get there, see how well you can play.
Yeah, the Kansas State thing was always interesting, because he essentially announced his transfer at the same time Terrence Lewis did. Obviously, Terrence Lewis chose UCF. There are some thoughts that Brandon Jennings might follow him. Again, he's from Jacksonville, so there were some thoughts he might come to Florida. Kansas State seemed kind of odd to begin with. It wasn't at least a lot of known ties. Maybe there's something I'm not aware of. I suppose that's possible. So who knows what'll happen with that, Mike? But the transfer portal continues to churn. I'm sure this won't be the last we've heard of it. Names continue to kind of float around out there. Obviously, there still is a bit of time for some of these guys, I guess, to make decisions, as long as they can enroll and they have eligibility and grad transfers, all that good jazz. So we'll see how the roster continues to take shape. But welcome. Maybe to Brandon Jennings to UCF. Mike, another quick football note over the weekend. Sad news to report. Marcus Tatum cut by the Jaguars. So went to camp this weekend. Did not get signed. So Marcus Tatum is a free agent right now. So we'll keep an eye on maybe where he ends up. Another quick update, Mike. The war on I-4. Once again, we have dominated 58-26. UCF wins the war on I-4. Is this what should we even do with this thing anymore? I mean, we only have really one more year left of it, right? I mean, it almost just feels like this. It's a foregone conclusion every year. How seriously do you take the war on I-4 rivalry stuff these days, considering where both these respective schools' programs are? And this is a serious question. I know they're our rival. They're the cows who make fun of them. But how seriously do you take this war on I-4 stuff?
Well, you take it seriously for one more year, and that's all it is, because after that, we don't deal with these guys for a while. Maybe somewhere down the road we meet again. But for now, yeah, I'll still take it seriously, because I want to beat them that badly, and I want to beat them that badly in everything we do, because I hate them that much. And it's mostly because of those 4 years where they laughed in our face as they were beating us in football. That's really what it all comes down to. They embarrassed us for those years. They beat us soundly that one time, 64-12. And they beat us in a couple of heartbreakers here in Orlando, too, that still drive me nuts to this day. So for those reasons, I want to beat them at everything. And we've been keeping track of score now with this War on I-4 trophy for the last few years, and we've dominated them ever since we started keeping track. So I've had fun with that. And you know how I love laughing at them. Mm-hmm. They can't get out of their own way, on social media or anywhere. They're just a failure of a university on all accounts. Yeesh. And I've enjoyed having a good laugh over it for the last few years. And I look forward to one more year of just rubbing their face in it. And then nanny, boo-boo, stick your head in doo-doo, we're out of here. That's it. And, I really want a whooping in football. That's the one thing that's missing. We've been talking about that for years. At 64-12, we can't let that stand. We got to beat them up really good this year, and then we'll beat that one.
Looks like the sixth straight season that UCF will have won the war on I-4 since they started kind of keeping tabs on this in 2016, Mike. So 6 straight for UCF in the war on I-4. Always fun to beat the Cows. One more to go. Might as well make it a clean 7, a clean sweep on our way out of the American Conference, Mike. Baseball really quickly. This weekend at Houston, a team that we had talked about on the show last week, that we needed an opportunity to at least win the series or at least sweep. They were ahead of us in the conference standings. UCF goes to Houston. Mike takes 2 of 3. David Litchfield, who has kind of been up and down, mostly down for the season, pitched really well on Saturday and then pitched again Sunday, got the win in relief on both occasions, Mike. Now UCF tied with Houston essentially for second in the conference. We have Cincinnati at home this weekend, who was pretty dreadful, Mike. They are 21-27 on the season, where Houston goes to ECU, who is currently the top seed in the American Conference if the tournament started today, Mike. So UCF maybe positions itself in the driver's seat for that 2 seed. We'll see what happens. We've obviously had some tough games throughout the year, so I don't want to assume the Cincinnati wins already. But how important in your mind is that 2 seed going into the conference tournament for the baseball team?
Well, it's good, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. The 2 and the 3 seed stay on the same side of the bracket the whole way until the championship round. So even if we drop to 3, we would still avoid East Carolina until the final, so that's fine. But I guess it would give us being the home team when we played Houston in the playoffs. So that would be good. You used to get that last at-bat there. But this baseball team, I don't know what to make of it. When we're up 1 week, we're down 1 week. We play good against the good teams. We play bad against the crap teams. I mean, you mentioned we're playing Cincinnati. They're no good. Well, we played the Cows last weekend, and they were no good, and they beat us 2 out of 3. So I don't know which way this team's going sometimes. They had a good weekend this weekend in Houston. They needed that on the road. They scored 4 runs in the first inning of game 1, and then they end up losing that game. You think, oh, boy, here we go again. But then they answered the bell, come back the next 2 days, some nice wins. So let's see. We keep talking about this every week with Stephen Brackett. Can we keep that momentum going on to the next week? And the old saying in baseball, momentum is your next day starting pitcher. Let's see how these guys pitch this weekend. I believe we have a game with Bethune tomorrow.
Bethune Tuesday, and then Cincinnati Thursday, Friday, Saturday to round out the regular season.
Yeah, let's close this thing out strong, at least with a series win. You figure if you win 2 out of 3, you're going to get the 2 seed. I don't see Houston going in and beating East Carolina 2 out of 3, so maybe they win 1. Maybe East Carolina sweeps them. Maybe you only have to win 1 to clinch the 2. So, put ourselves in a pretty good spot going into the tournament. We played the East Carolina series is the one that really hurts. They beat us up. Other than that, we played pretty well against most of the conference. So I have a good feeling going into the tournament where we can make it to that last day. And then, anything goes from there. If you have a good game, you can pull an upset against East Carolina. You win that tournament, all of a sudden you're guaranteed a spot in the big dance. That's all we can hope for right now.
It looks like, by the way, the tournament is being held in Clearwater again this year, so it's a short trip over for UCF. Hopefully some familiar, at least surroundings for them as they sort of play. But to your point, it's been such a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I forget how those go, but it's just not been a good consistent season for the Knights. So it's hard to understand what team you're going to get every night as you come out to the park. There have been some nights, to your point, where we're gangbusters, and the next night, what the heck are we doing? Obviously, injuries have played a big role throughout the year. And who knows who will be healthy. I think the Connor Stain stuff is still kind of figuring out, like, when's he going to be ready? Will he be ready? Pitching is going to dominate, and our pitching has been up and down all year. You never know what kind of performance you're going to get. But at least the season closes out, Mike. We have a chance to finish in the second place position. Overall, successful season for UCF, or do you still need to hold and see what happens over these next 2 weeks before you're ready to make that call?
Well, are we getting into the tournament? Even if we don't win this conference tournament, probably, maybe, right? Depending on how well we fare in this thing.
I mean, we're 30-21 overall. I mean, there's our record. I don't know how that stacks up against the rest of the country, but 30-21 overall, 13-8 in the AAC.
We need a bracketologist that's as good as Elo in softball on the baseball side and tell us where we're at right now. We don't have much else we can do other than go on a run in the tournament. You would think the AAC gets more than one team in, right? And obviously East Carolina is a clear 1, and if we finish the season with the 2 seed and we have a decent run in the conference tournament, I think we should be able to get in there. And then I can tell you if it's a successful season, and if we make any noise in the regional tournament. So still, I can't answer the question is what I'm telling you.
All right, I'm looking at, hold on, I pulled this up while you're talking, Mike. This is baseballamerica.com. This is their projected field of 64. I am scanning. I am scanning. I'm still scanning. I don't see UCF listed as an option. They are not in the last 4 in. They're not in the first 4 out, and they're not in the next 4 out. So I don't see any.
We're not in the bubble.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the bubble there.
Wow.
East Carolina is projected to be a 3 seed, and if I'm looking at this correctly, and I'd like to think that I am, I don't see any other American Conference team listed as a participant right now.
Wow, what a crappy conference. Good thing we're getting out of here because, one team out of a field of 64, that's not good. That's like, then you're basically – okay, let's put it this way. If we won the conference tournament, East Carolina would still get in, right? Because that would be the only way we would get 2 teams in. Somebody else has to win it.
Yeah, in theory.
I would think East Carolina.
In theory, yeah. I mean, East Carolina's – I would hope. I mean, they've had a darn good season.
Yeah, and they're a perennial power. They've been to the College World Series. They've been around for a while now. But, man, what a crappy conference when you look at it that way. And you can tell that by just looking at our team. The season that we've had has not been anything great. We've dealt with a lot of injuries. We've been up and down. We've lost to bad teams. And yet here we are, second in the conference. So I guess that tells you everything you need to know about the Americans.
Well, that was by Teddy Cahill. That was on the 11th when he posted that. Looking at another site here. Let me see what we got. Here. I do not see UCF as an option in this particular scenario either. So this is from theadvocate.com. Patrick McGee, a staff writer, looks to be an LSU paper. They don't have UCF either. So. Right now, nobody has us anywhere near the tournament, Mike. So never mind.
So if we don't get in, it is a disappointing year. I know there was a lot of injuries. A lot of key players have been missing. So I guess, do you give Lovelady a pass on that? Maybe. If he finds a way to get us into the tournament, if we win this conference tournament, this may be looked at as his best coaching job since he's been here. So still a little bit of ways to go. I don't feel encouraged, though, but after what you just told me, this may be the last couple weeks of baseball if it shakes out the way you're telling me right now.
D1 baseball, Mike, as of 3-4 days ago, does not have UCF in either, and they are not even in the first 4 out. So nobody reputable so far has UCF even in the top 70 at this point.
Well, good news is in baseball, you still got a chance to play your way in, just like in basketball. You win your conference tournament, you're in, and it's happened before. I remember it was probably 2010, 2012, something like that. Fresno State had a losing record in the regular season. We're no good. Went on to win the conference, make it all the way, and go to they won the College World Series, I believe. Or they got to the final. They were in the College World Series. I'm pretty sure they won it. They won the whole thing with a losing record in the regular season. So, as Kevin Garnett would say, anything's possible.
Wow, I didn't expect a Kevin Garnett quote today from UCF. Mike, those are the headlines. Again, don't worry about all that because softball in the postseason this weekend at the Plex. Make sure you get there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, double elimination. We will find out what happens, Mike. Let's take a little of a siesta right here, and we'll come back after this. We'll talk about our guest this week. We'll talk about the season that he was a part of, and we'll do some Cal of the Week. Don't go anywhere. Sons of UCF.
This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn, and you're listening to the Future of UCF podcasting with Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Boom.
All right, Mike, as I mentioned off the top, Bo Schneider is our guest this week. Bo obviously played on that 2015 team that went winless, Mike, and I thought it's the summer. Not a lot going on in UCF land. Maybe it's a good time for us to kind of rewind the clocks for some of our guests and kind of reframe where we are with the audience. Mike, 2015, from a football perspective, I mean, obviously I know we went winless early in the 2000s, but that 2015 season just was a dreadful circumstance of events. At least with O'Leary's original winless season, he was coming in new. He was starting something new. There was a lot of turnover after Kruzek left. Some players left the team. I think George kicked a bunch of kids off the team. So you knew it was a team that was kind of in turn, but you saw the directional arrow hopefully pointing upward. That 2015 team, like going into it, I don't know if anyone really thought we were going to be as bad as we ended up being, but B, I mean, that was just a kick in the shins every freaking week.
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to be bad, really, going into the year. I mean, coming off 2013, we know what happened there, the Fiesta Bowl win. The next season, we win the conference again. You have the Hail Mary at East Carolina to get a share of the title there. Yeah, we lose the bowl game to NC State, but a pretty decent core coming back. Got Holman, who is a winning quarterback, and you think, the team's not going to be bad, and we can compete for the conference. Why not? We're the back-to-back champs. And then I remember watching that first game against FIU, and it was a Thursday night. We're kicking off the season. I'm all excited, and the offense looks kind of crappy in the beginning of the game. 7-0, and then we push it to 14-0. I said, all right, here we go. I think it was right before half. We scored that touchdown, Jordan Akins, and it was either right before or coming out of the second half. And I was like, all right, here we go. Now we're settled in. We're going to blow these guys out. And from that moment on, for the rest of the year, it was just a miserable existence as a UCF fan. Just everything that could go wrong went wrong. And when FIU blocked that field goal, I knew we might be in for a tough season. When Holman broke his hand at Stanford, it was looking rough. When we lost to Furman, I think I lost all kinds of hope after that. And then it just spiraled out of control after that, blowout after blowout, as the weeks went on.
Yeah, it must feel like, when you look at the roster now and you see so many young freshmen on that team, now you look at it and go, oh, well, that's why. Like, I mean, there was one senior in the backfield, and that was Joe Papulo, who obviously was a fullback. Yeah, the standback was a junior, but we know how that worked. Not a single, only 1, 2, 3 upperclassmen at all in the receiving corps, and you couldn't pick these guys out of a lineup. Blake Terlosi, Taylor Oldham, and Hayden Jones. Up front, Mike, you had Joey Grant, who obviously was kind of the stalwart. Outside of that, you had one senior, and you had 1, 2, 3, 4 juniors, including Jason Ray. There was youth everywhere. And when you look at it now, you're kind of like, why didn't we see that coming? But you felt like Holman was going to turn a corner. I mean, he had a pretty decent 2014 season. A lot of expectations on him, obviously coming off of Blake Bortles and sort of where he was going to be at. But again, at 7-1 in conference the year before, you had, initially you sort of had no inclination that this is kind of where things were at, Mike. But can you imagine what would happen, like, if UCF went winless in any of these, this season or next season or anything like that, the catastrophic nature of how bad that would set the program back? Because when we talked to Bo, we talked a little bit about this, which was there were still transfer restrictions back then, right? There was no NIL. Imagine an 0-12, 0-13 team now. Everybody would be gone. It would just be catastrophic. It would be like you and I would be playing offensive line. It would just be a ghost town if that happened today. I guess in some respects we're lucky it happened in the era it did, because I mean, I can't even imagine. Again, perhaps there wasn't a lot of talent on that team, at least from other coaches' perspectives. But I mean, it would just be a bloodbath if that happened in current present day times for any school, let alone UCF.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 0-12, if the whole team wants to transfer, as a fan, you say, "Good riddance, get out of here." The whole key is going to be a new coach coming in and changing the direction of the program, which is exactly what happened to us. It's what the Cows have been hoping they could do the last few years now. I mean, they brought Scott in thinking he was going to be the savior. He hasn't done anything really over there. And once you're in a hole like that, it's hard to dig it out. Once you start losing all your best players, then, there's nowhere to go but down. Luckily for us, it took 2 years and we're back to winning every single game, something that has never happened before. I don't know, man. There's a lot of luck involved. A lot of those games, we went through it with Bo. Early on in the season, we were right in those games with some good teams. He mentioned Stanford was a pretty good team that year. South Carolina were winning that game at the half. The FIU game we should have never lost. The Furman game we should never be losing to a team like Furman. There was a bunch of wins on that schedule that we just didn't come through with. And, I guess it's good that we went 0-12 in the long run, looking back on it. But, yeah, you're right. If that happened today, forget it. You got to cancel your Twitter account. You got to get off all the social media as a player and a fan. I couldn't deal with any of that stuff. There's no way I'd be reading through all this crap every day. Back then I was part of the dungeon, but probably I wasn't posting as much. Halfway through that season, it was just, I'm not even looking forward to Saturday anymore. I don't make plans to watch the games. I watch it if it's on, but, once we're down 21-0, I'm turning off the TV. I'm doing something else.
Well, you mentioned it. I mean, 2 of those first 3 games, Mike, we lose by a point, 15-14 to FIU, and then 16-15 to Furman. We're in the game against Stanford, although that's probably a tough one. We were right there against South Carolina for a period of time. We were leading against Temple in the third quarter, lost that game 30-16, and obviously the Houston game 59-10 turns out to be the last game George O'Leary ever coached. What would happen? Let's put you in the Wayback Machine. Imagine O'Leary never resigned that season, finishes the season out. Do you think UCF still has the rise it had, or do you think the new energy from Scott Frost, the new up-tempo offense, obviously recruits are going to be different? Could UCF have survived and been where we are today or anywhere close to it if George O'Leary doesn't resign in 15?
No, there's no chance. Because what would have happened is Brent Key would have taken over. He would have been the head coach for the next couple of years, running the same O'Leary system, with a bunch of guys that just went through a year without winning a game. The change was needed. And it wasn't just in the locker room, but it's all around the whole program. The new uniforms, the whole new identity of this program, the way we were recruiting players. There's a different philosophy you have in recruiting players. When O'Leary, if you were committed to him, you weren't allowed to go visit any other schools. You just had rules like that. Well, Frost comes in and, you want to go check somebody out? Okay, go ahead. But, you're committed here, and then they end up here. And it's just a different voice in there. Everybody just changed their whole attitude the next season. You don't have to have your hair cut a certain way, which I know drove a lot of guys nuts. Just little things like that to change up the whole program. It's exactly what we needed at the time. And no, if O'Leary stays on as athletic director and he hires his own guy, I think we're stuck in that. There's going to be an improvement the next year. Maybe we win 4 games, 5 games. Maybe we're a 6-6 team after a couple years. Maybe we're 8-4. But there's no way we go on the run that we went on, where we go undefeated, and then next year we win every game again, even with a new coach. It's just not possible. The whole thing had to be blown up, and it's exactly what happened.
Well, even if you look at that roster, Mike, and I named some of these guys when we talked to Bo in a little bit, but even the secondary alone, you had both the Griffins, you had DJ Killens, you had Kyle Gibson, you had Rashard Causey, Trey Neal, Neville Clark. Those guys were all, except for the Griffins, those guys were all freshmen. On the D line, you had Titus Davis as a freshman, we had Brendan Hayes as a freshman, AJ Wooten was a freshman, Pittman was a sophomore, Tony Garrard was a sophomore, Joey Connors was a freshman. Again, these are names that stuck around that at UCF. Linebackers, you had freshman Pat Jasinski. You had Dimitri Brin was a junior. Shaquan Burkett, who was a sophomore. I mean, the building blocks were there for a lot of these. Receivers, you had Jordan Akins and Klubi Ali, who both ended up becoming tight ends. You had Cam Stewart, who played a pretty big role. You had a young freshman, Traquan Smith, who obviously broke out. You had Jordan Franks, who turned into a good receiving tight end. You had Taj McGowan in the backfield. I mean, the building blocks were there for a lot of those guys. And I guess to your point, it's lightning the bottle, right? You have the right guys, the right mix of guys. But in some respects, is 2015 the best thing that could have happened to UCF, right? Because imagine that roster puts it together. We go 7-5, right? We go 6-6, whatever. Maybe not enough for O'Leary to fire O'Leary, right? So we have another season kind of the doldrums. In some respects, I know we've talked about this. Is 2015 kind of the necessary step that it took for us to get to 2017?
Yeah, it definitely was. It didn't have to be 0-12. Like I said, we should have at least won the FIU and the Furman game. And if it's 2-10, you could still, change everything. You could still get a new coach. O'Leary could still resign and all that stuff. 2-10, that may have been enough for him to get out of there anyway. But yeah, we definitely needed it. That's something that had to happen. I think if we win 4 or 5 games, maybe things don't change. But 3 and under, I think we still see the same things happen. And it's exactly what had to happen in order for us to go 13-0 2 years later.
And even the entire downtrodden nature of the fan base. I mean, everyone remembers Mike. I think I looked up. The bar was called the Basement in Orlando. Offered free beer until UCF wins a game. So you essentially went to, went there, and as long as UCF lost the game, you got free beer. They continued that into 2016, obviously, and obviously UCF had a much better season. They won the first one that year, so that changed. But the entire just the nature of it. And it's funny when Bo talks about it in a little bit, how much that drove all of them. At some point, it became like, hey, let's have a good year. To hey, we can't lose every game. And it's funny how I guess aware they all were of that, and how much they were kind of fighting to try to not have that happen.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to be part of history in a bad way like that, right? And obviously, it happened before. And not even that much long before that, 10 years before that, 2004. So those guys knew about something like that is possible. Nobody wants to be around and have their name attached to it. And the guy we talked to tonight, Bo, he was here for 1 year at UCF, and that happened to be the year. So
yeah.
Obviously, it's not a good thing. Not a lot of good memories for him. But, give him credit coming on the show like this. It's easy to come on and talk about all the games we won and all the championships we won and, the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl. Yeah, who doesn't want to come here and talk to us about that? But to come on here knowing that we're talking about all UCF and, hey, I didn't win one game for these guys. And I'm still going to go on there and talk to them for 45 minutes, whatever it is. I give him a lot of credit for doing that tonight.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised he agreed. I mean, he actually agreed pretty quickly. Was super nice as he and I were chatting leading up to the conversation. Because you're right, he could have been like, "Look, man, I don't want to. I was only there 1 year. I want no part of it." But I said this off the top. One of the things we always try to do around here is we either want to have that guest that you go, "Oh my goodness, I'm so glad they got that person because I remember watching him or her play and they were great," or the name that you're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." And that's obviously what Bo will end up being for UCF. And it's interesting when, as fans, we think about that year and we just kind of like, no, we just don't talk about 2015. But to your point, these guys had to live that. And for some of these guys, they had to continue to find homes playing football and find new places to go, walking around with this stigma. And imagine Bo, who's walking around like, hey, excuse me, Pitt. Hi. Yeah, I know I didn't win anything, but do you mind if can I come play for you guys? Like the stigma that has to have on some of the players as they're trying to transfer. And again, with the rules of sitting out back then, has to make it that much harder. So you're right. I tip my cap to Bo and really all those guys. And it's cool when you look back at that roster. And if you guys haven't had a chance to do that, Google that 2015 Knights roster and just think about how many players that you see in that roster were there for that 17 season and were there as a part of that turnaround. And you got to commend those guys for sticking it out and saying, hey, I'm gonna hang in there and be a part of something. No disrespect to a guy like Bo who just didn't fit the new system and had to find a new home. But I guess we don't think about what that did for all of those guys' careers, both positively in some respects and probably negatively in a bunch.
Yep. And you mentioned people not knowing or not remembering about a certain guy. If you ask most UCF fans who was the quarterback after Justin Holman, 90% of them probably just say Mackenzie Milton, and they forget all about Bo Schneider and Tyler Harris and that whole year. And rightfully so. I try to block out that whole year myself.
Yeah.
If you want to go back and look at the box scores, here's a name that most people don't remember. Maybe had the best fourth quarter individually in UCF history was Darren Wilson, that wide receiver. I think he had 4 catches in his career, and 3 of them were touchdowns in that fourth quarter against Tulane. I remember watching that thinking, maybe we got something, at least salvage the season. We got a deadly combination here, Harris to Wilson. And that was only lived. Wow.
Sure, it was a 1 quarter connection, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, they were in a groove, that's for sure. They almost came back down big that game. But yeah, man, it's not forgotten names, as in, if you're a true UCF fan, you know who we're talking about. And you remember him as a recruit coming in, big pro-style quarterback, similar to Blake, in size and everything. And hey, O'Leary made it work with him. Let's shape this guy. He's got a year or 2 under Holman, and he's going to be the next guy. And I had big expectations for Bo Schneider when he came in. And now he is, as we discussed before the show, the second best Schneider we've had at quarterback at UCF.
Well, Holman's interesting too when you really think about his career. Like, I know we've done this list before, Mike. I don't know if you have your top 5 ready now, but top 5 kind of like what if players for UCF, because we always knew that Holman had the talent. I mean, we've the guy had a rocket for an arm, and that was on display a bunch. But 2014 played okay. I mean, didn't get to start initially. Obviously, DeNovo starts that first half against Penn State. He comes in, and Holman does, and it's kind of lights out. They help Perryman against ECU. He plays well. 2015 he gets banged up, and the whole team obviously isn't performing really well, and not a lot of maybe not a lot of weaponry around him there. And then 2016 starts a new offense and, gets dinged up again. And then here comes Mackenzie Milton. I mean, Holman's really an interesting character when you think about his time at UCF and all the different things he was a part of, because there's so much that you go, man, this kid had all the potential. And sometimes through no fault of his own, it just wasn't able to happen. And it's interesting where his place in UCF history kind of falls in between, the Blake stuff and the KZ stuff.
Yeah, Holman came out like a rocket in that first game over in Ireland, taking over for DeNovo in the second half. And that's another one where you said, oh, my God, this guy is the real deal. You could see him making the throws. He had a rocket for an arm. He ran in the touchdown with, less than 2 minutes to go to give us the lead in that game. I'm thinking, okay, we're going to be in good hands for the next couple of years. And he did well for himself that year. That 2014 season, we lost 3 games. The one was the Ireland game, which we should have won. Like we just said, they waited too long to bring him in. We could have won that one. The Missouri game on the road, we were in that one until like the middle of the third quarter. Then I think a ball gets tipped, they intercepted, a fat lineman runs it back, and that one gets out of hand. And then we go on a run there where we win every game except for the UConn game, which is another one I don't know how we let slip away. But a pretty good season under Holman, and then he gets the injury, and then the winless season happens. And then all of a sudden, Mackenzie Milton enters the building with the new head coach. The writing's on the wall for him. But Holman could have been something, too, where we discussed it with him, too. We've done the interview with him going over his whole career. But, yeah, it's another one that maybe some UCF fans kind of look past. But he was a very good quarterback for his time, too.
Well, the bright side, we still have some payback, though. We got FAU back the next year. We beat them in 2016. Obviously, we beat Stanford on the return, was that 2019. We have not played Furman since then, right? We haven't played Furman since 2015?
No. And we actually have a friend, remember, from high school that went to Furman.
I remember.
Clark.
I remember good old Clark.
Scooter and Crowder. They all came down. Remember that time? We had a weekend. Our buddy that went to Furman came down and visited us at UCF.
Yeah.
And his couple of buddies, they all stayed at our place. We hung out, and they knew us because of Dante Culpepper. Like, you guys know Dante Culpepper? I'm like, no, we don't know Dante. But that was a good weekend too. I can't remember.
So we got a lot of things got thrown off the balcony that weekend. So we haven't gotten Furman back yet, and we still have South Carolina too. So we got 2 of the 4. We got payback at least non-conference.
We owe South Carolina
twice.
For a few.
Yeah.
Losses. Yeah, that 2013
well, actually,
game,
earlier. Yeah, and
yeah.
The Dante era.
Before that, the Dante Saya Burley game where I think we lost by 1 or 2 points. So we owe South Carolina for quite a while.
Next year's top 5. I need a top 5 next week, Mike. Top 5 schools we have something we owe. You know what I mean? Like we got reparations we need. We need a top 5 list out of you. You have to do it right now.
I mean, well, you just did it. South Carolina, Furman. We owe the Cows for that 64-12. I don't care how many times we beat them since. We still owe them for that one.
Okay.
Well, we just got the Gators back, so that feels good, and we're clear there. Who else do we owe a beating to? Obviously, Tulsa.
Well, what's your criteria? Is it? Oh, Tulsa's Jeff. Well, we beat Tulsa before that. What's your criteria though? Is it schools that have embarrassed us? Schools that we just never won? Schools that we need to win over, like a Miami, right? I mean, we played Miami tough a couple times, but we don't have much of a history with them. But a nice beating of them would help. I mean, what's the criteria here? Do you want payback? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, it depends. If they've embarrassed us like the Cows did, you could never beat them enough. You're talking about schools that we've never beaten before. Then, yeah, Miami's on the list. Georgia Southern, who I think we beat once in the time we were
They got it coming. Okay.
They whooped us like 10 times. We owe those guys. So depends on how you want to do it. If you want to say only the teams that we've never beat before, I'm going to have to go through that list right now. We're 0-2 against Miami, 0-1 against Florida State all time. Clemson, that one game with Jeff Scott with the fake field goal. We owe one from that. Syracuse and Virginia Tech were 0-3 against both those teams. That's just the ACC.
What about Cincinnati? Do we owe Cincinnati? I mean, they beat us pretty handily last year. Is that an owed game at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we owe them for the last couple of years, but we've given it to them already a couple times. It's not like they've dominated us in the whole series. It's a 3-4 series. The games we beat them, we embarrassed them on the College Game Day game. We run ruled them up in Cincinnati before. So I don't know if we owe them. We owe them. This team that we have now, this roster owes them, because if they lose this one, then they'll have never beaten this team, right? The seniors on this, it's already been 3 years. So if they beat us 4 years in a row, then it's kind of like what we were going through with Southern Miss and East Carolina back in the early Conference USA days. There's another school that we owe a few beatings to, is the Southern Miss. I mean, what's our all-time record against them?
Yeah.
2-6 all-time against them. So not very good there either. BYU, we owe them for the Boca Bowl, but at the same time, we also beat them once. It's a 1-2 series. So not too many schools there we never beat them. Furman, we're 0-2 against Furman. Just looking it up now, we must have lost.
We owe that Furman big time. What a son of a
wow! A
wow.
long time ago.
Okay, bring on Furman,
Also,
Mike. Let's start it right now. Bring on Timo. If you're listening, bring on Furman.
Yeah, or it's just something, you give it to them and say, hey, I never want to see that again, because we could be cursed when we play Furman. Don't let them have it. Alabama A&M were 0-2 against them also.
Wow. Throw out the records when we play Alabama A&M.
Presbyterian 0-2. Wolford 0-1. Wichita State 0-1. Stephen F. Austin has given it to us 0-1 against them.
I don't think Wichita State is a football team anymore.
I don't think so.
I don't think we can schedule that one. I think we can schedule that one.
We lost a game against New Haven and Indiana State. All these schools have beat us, and we've never beat them.
All right, well, I asked Mike for a top 20. I got like a top 20. So,
Texas State. Did you know that? We've 0-2 against them.
The Fighting Armadillos?
I guess. I have no idea what they are.
I made that up. Isn't that the movie?
But yeah, South Carolina is probably the top on the list, because looking at these records,
okay,
0-5 against South Carolina, and I think that's the worst record of all of them. And Georgia Southern 1-10. That can get rectified. And they're a Sun Belt team now. If you're going to play these out of conference games, and you don't want to play, FBS schools or wherever they are, play Georgia Southern. Let's start evening out that rivalry a little bit.
Yeah, I need a schedule of just Furman and Georgia Southern. Then that's what we need. Timo, we need games, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, well, now that we're moving into the Big 12, maybe 9 conference games, we don't need as many, but these are games that we can get at home, and it'd be nice paydays and a nice little payback. So
you're going down, Furman.
Timo can get to work.
You're going down, Furman. All right, well, 2015 was just a blur of a season, and luckily we don't have to think about that too much anymore, but we're glad Bo was able to join us. I think you'll enjoy that. But before we get to Bo, just a reminder that we're proudly presented by the law firm of Gordon & Partners. It's important that you get advice from somebody you trust, and that is UCF alum Michael Hoffman. He's super cool. Want you to call him directly if you have any questions, or send him a text message, 407-913-5350. Give him a buzz. Let him know what's going on. If he can't help you, he's going to give you somebody who can help you. He's not going to jerk your chain a little bit here. He's going to give you good sound advice, get you in the right direction, and give you what you need. So again, give Michael Hoffman, a UCF alum, a diehard UCF guy, a text, 407-913-5350, or you can visit their website at fortheinjured.com. Mike, let's bring in our guest this week. It's Bo Schneider, and here's Bo. All right, as I mentioned, happy to have Bo Schneider with us. Bo, let's start here. You were a quarterback out of Texas, a 3-star kid. How did you end up at UCF? Can you take us through your recruiting process? Who was after you? What schools were you considering? And where did you end up ultimately visiting prior to coming to UCF?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, from Texas, from Dallas, I went to Jesuit here in Dallas, and I wasn't crazy recruited. I had some good offers, but ultimately UCF, it was Coach Key, Brent Key, came down to Jesuit and watched me throw, and I guess I did well enough to receive an offer, and it was really between UCF and Oregon State. So I'd visited Oregon State all the way in Corvallis, Oregon, and then flew all the way across the country to Orlando And once I saw Orlando and the facilities at UCF and talked to the coaches and all that stuff, pretty much knew that UCF was the right spot for me and just felt right. And ultimately I chose it. And I was really happy with the decision. I love Florida. I had a really good group of friends. So I really was happy with the decision.
So you said Coach Key was your main recruiter. Take us through kind of what was the selling point? What were the pitches that either Coach Key or Coach O'Leary, Coach Barrett, anybody you interacted with? What were kind of the selling points they were giving you about UCF and Orlando?
Yeah, I mean, coming from Texas, just kind of off the top, warm weather really mattered to me, and obviously Orlando is definitely that and some. So that was a plus. I wanted to play in some warm weather. Then aside from that, just I think the situation and the coaching style of Coach O'Leary and Coach Barrett and everyone involved, Coach Key, of course, just felt like the right offense for my style of play, with the pro style offense, as well as a pretty good situation with, of course, UCF kind of being put on the map from Blake Bortles after the Fiesta Bowl and all that sort of stuff kind of going down, and then just a few years later. Felt like it was a good situation from a quarterback perspective, and just felt right. I visited a lot of different schools, and you kind of just have this feeling, whether it's makes sense or not. You kind of just get there, and you're like, okay, does this feel right? Does this seem like somewhere I could actually see myself going? And UCF felt exactly like that. So when I got on campus, and it was a perfectly sunny day, and coming from Corvallis, Oregon, it was not very sunny at all, and it just really felt right. Something about it just felt right.
But when you first got there, we had just won the conference championship 2 years in a row. Holman was the starting quarterback the year before. Did you think you were going to come in red shirt, or did you come in expecting to compete for the job?
Obviously Justin kind of solidified himself as the starter and had a great season the year before, of course. And I didn't really have expectations to redshirt or to play. It was just kind of whatever happens. And I guess ideally, once Justin had finished up, whenever that may be, it was kind of my turn, or at least that's what I thought. It was going to be my turn after that to kind of take over the team. And so, I wouldn't say I really had expectations to play or to redshirt, but certainly was competing as hard as I could and wanted to play, and ultimately did get a shot at playing. And so, I guess really neither would be my answer.
Take us through that first camp. When you get on campus, how is this college game different from high school? Did you have like a welcome to college moment?
Funny enough, so I had actually kind of graduated a little bit early. Most freshmen came for the second part of the summer. I was actually able to come for the first part of the summer. And so I really got a kind of before most of my class came in, I kind of got a little bit of a head start, I guess. And so, there really wasn't a big moment where I was like, oh, wow, this is definitely college, not high school. But I will say the first day of fall camp, I remember it was so hot, and I was, certainly a little bit nervous and really wanted to do well. And I guess I just I was overheated and sweating, and it was just a hot day in Orlando, as we all know. And I actually had a full body cramp at the end of practice. So pretty much every muscle in my body was cramped up. And so I guess that was my first day of camp. I was like, oh man, this is going to be a long, 30 days or so. But, ended up being able to, I guess, hydrate a little bit better the next days. But it was definitely a rude awakening, I guess, from that day.
Describe the quarterback room for us that year. So you mentioned Justin Holman, who was probably at that point the established starter, but you had Pete DeNovo, you had Tyler Harris, you had Sean Pratt. Nick Patty was bouncing around from the wide receiver room to the quarterback room from time to time. What was that QB room like in 2015? How close were you all? Was it competitive? What did you learn from those guys in that QB room in 2015?
Yeah, I learned a lot, coming in as the freshman who really didn't have, a ton of experience, obviously no experience in college. And so, it took a lot of help from coaches and teammates for me and my other teammates in my class to kind of learn the playbook and kind of get acclimated in that area. And so, The QB room, we were close. We really enjoyed each other. It was really, kind of towards, I guess in the season, it was really just me, Justin, and Tyler Harris were kind of the three musketeers, if you will. And, Nick Patty, of course, kind of moved back and forth. He played obviously some wildcat and played some wide receiver, but he, of course, as a former quarterback and ended up going back to QB, he knew the playbook very well and was really helpful to me as well. So really all the guys were super helpful to me, and we really enjoyed everyone. We were never, there was no bad blood or anything like that. We actually all got along really well.
Right. In every class, though, there's a class clown. Who was the class clown here? Was it Patty? I mean, who was the class clown in this group?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. We had a pretty good time with Coach Barrett, who, was the quarterback coach at the time. And, yeah, I don't even know. We all kind of just fed off of each other probably. I don't know if there was one specific guy who really, and unfortunately because we had a tough season, there wasn't a whole bunch of joking going around.
Sure.
So at least during the season, there wasn't a whole bunch. But, during camp, it's so brutal. It's, long days and really tough days. And, you have no choice but to kind of let loose a little bit. And if you're serious the entire time, you're going to go crazy. So, we all had our fun and kind of joked around, I guess, at every moment.
Overall, what were your expectations for the team that season? I mean, you obviously had seen every practice leading up to the first game. So before we kick off that first one against FIU, what were your expectations for the team? Did you think that you had a squad that was, capable of competing for a conference championship? Did you think you guys would sort of, maybe be middle of the road? Did you have any understanding of maybe what you thought the team could be that year?
I think looking back, it's tough to say. Obviously we were a really young team, and I don't think, at the start of the season, or at least during fall camp, we were expecting, so many teammates from my class to play. So a lot of true freshmen were playing, and we probably didn't really expect that to happen, or at least I didn't, at the very beginning of camp. But, coming off of 2 conference championships, the expectations were, we're going for the three-peat. That's obviously what the expectation was, and that's what the goal was. Of course, didn't work out like we wanted to, but I would say if you're not expecting to win, you shouldn't even be out there. So I think the expectations from the whole team were we're here to compete and we're here to win. We're not just here to I guess go 0-12, of course. So I think we just we were hoping to do better, obviously.
Yeah, that first game was a real kick in the balls to start it off. The FIU game, we're up 14-0 in that game, and then somehow they just chip away. They blocked the Matthew Wright field goal at the end. What do you remember about that day?
Yeah, I mean, that was my very first game in college football, so it was, it was really cool. I mean, I was excited, and obviously the expectations were we were supposed to win that game, of course, and we were obviously really upset that we didn't, and it was it was a really tough start to what ended up being a really tough season. But Matt Wright was my roommate at UCF, and obviously it was I think it was his first college football game ever too. So it's just or at least first to play, but it was just it was a tough situation, and we were pretty sad and upset at the end of the game, and of course didn't go our way. But it was sad to say the least.
Yeah, O'Leary didn't do him any favors at the end of that game either. I mean, he wasn't trying to advance the ball at all. We went backwards, and I think there was a penalty, and then made the kick a lot harder than it should have been. But,
yeah, it's things happen. Obviously, it's just tough, and it's an unfortunate ending to a game that we obviously felt like we should have won.
All right, but the next week we fly all the way over to Stanford, and a game we're in it for a long time. It's a night game. Holman starts, but he gets hurt early in the game, and they tap you on the shoulder. So what are you thinking when they come over to you and say, hey, you're in the ballgame?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a crazy situation. That week prior in practice, I had just been named the backup quarterback officially, and so it was kind of a competition between me and Tyler, and I had just been named the backup officially, and so when I saw Justin after that first drive, come out of the game and holding his hand with, I believe if I remember correctly, blood dripping from his throwing hand, I suddenly realize that I'm about to go into the game. And, you know, in my head, I'm prepared, I'm ready to go. And, you know, it's finally my opportunity, or I say finally, but it happened pretty quickly. But, you know, it's just a crazy situation. And of course, like I'm going to probably end up saying, if we go through every single game, it's not how we wanted it to, you know, how I wanted to end. But, you know, it was a really cool situation for me. You know, I thought I did okay, at least okay. You know, I wanted to do better, and of course wanted to get the win. But for me personally, it was really cool to get into, you know, my first college game on the road at Stanford, who ended up being, I think, the number 5 team in the country, something like that. They almost made the playoff, if I remember correctly. But, you know, some cool guys, Solomon Thomas and Christian McCaffrey, and, you know, all those guys we kind of get to play against was, you know, pretty cool for me. And it was just a, you know, pretty cool experience. But it unfortunately was also a sad one because we lost.
Well, how long? I mean, obviously, as a backup quarterback, they always say you're one play away from entering the game, right? But you never obviously know when that play is. How long does it take you to adjust, right? You get hit in the shoulder. They say, Schneider, you're in there. How long does it take you to kind of adjust and kind of get your rhythm and settle down right after that? Because it's such a quick turnaround, right? From, hey, you're on the bench to all of a sudden you're in the game. How long did it take you to kind of get comfortable, at least in that game?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways I could answer it. I think one from just like kind of being warmed up and you know, being good to throw and all that stuff. I was definitely warm. It was the beginning of it was basically the beginning of the game. It was the first drive that Justin got hurt. So you know, I was ready to go from that perspective. But you know, I think every quarterback, especially someone a true freshman on the road, the first chance at getting into an actual game. It definitely takes a minute to kind of get acclimated and kind of, you know, get in the flow of the game. And I think that's true for all quarterbacks, no matter what the experience is. You know, there's a certain level of kind of getting adjusted to the game and how everything feels and what the defense is doing and whatnot, and just kind of getting the rhythm of a football game. And so I think it took me a few drives and definitely wish it happened quicker, but you know, we kind of got some drives rolling, and unfortunately we fumbled the ball, and it kind of killed that momentum of that, what I thought was a great drive. I think we converted on 2 or 3 third downs, and so you know, I felt like we were kind of trying to finally starting to get a little bit of rhythm, and unfortunately had a turnover that you know, made it rough for us to, you know, come back from. But you know, it was, like I said, a really cool experience, and you know, really enjoyed it.
What does Coach O'Leary say to you after the game? And you guys were only down 10 at halftime, to your point. I mean, there were still opportunities, at least in the second half, to maybe put something together. What does Coach O'Leary say to you after the game? Again, young kid, you probably weren't expecting to get in. What was that post-game meeting between you and Coach like?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's crazy time for me. And honestly, it's just, I couldn't even remember exactly what he said to me. You know, I can remember some points during the game and what he said to me and what we were trying to do. And, you know, like you said, we were down 10 at half to a pretty good team. And, you know, we had a chance in the second half to come out and kind of turn the game around, and unfortunately couldn't do it. But, you know, I think Coach O'Leary and Coach Key and Coach Barrett and all the other coaches, you know, definitely on the offensive side were, you know, adjusting the game plan for one, because as you guys might know, Justin Holman's a great athlete. I, on the other hand, am not the quickest guy in the world. And so, you know, I think we had a game plan where Justin was going to be running the ball a bit more than maybe he normally would. Obviously, his great, you know, scramble skills and you know, getting out of the pocket and whatnot. But for me, you know, they just needed to kind of simplify the playbook, certainly because I was not as experienced as Justin, and secondly, just because our play styles were a little bit different. And so there was a lot of adjustments going on and a lot of things going on, and you know, we felt confident that we were going to go into the second half and make it happen, you know. But as I continue to say, it didn't happen as we had hoped.
Well, they went to Tyler Harris for a little bit at the end of the Stanford game too. So coming out of that game, how early in the week do you know you're starting against Furman? Does O'Leary just tell you Monday morning, or does he make you sit on it for a little while?
You know, I wish I had a better answer for you. I really don't even remember. I don't believe there was ever a point where, you know, where I wasn't going to start. You know, I think it was just kind of a weird situation in general. But I think, I think Coach O'Leary and Coach Key and Coach Barrett just all said, hey, you're still the guy. Be prepared regardless. Even if something else happens, just be prepared no matter what, because as we know, you never know when your shot can come. So, that was our main goal, is just making sure that we were as prepared as we can be.
Yeah, so actually later in the Furman game, they bring Harrison again. Do you feel like they were kind of just – maybe it's because you're a true freshman, but you don't have as long of a leash and you kind of play a little bit more scared that way, or did it have any effect on you at all?
I don't know if that specifically had an effect on me. I think definitely felt like I wanted to continue to play in the second half, obviously, but that's what a football team does. You support your teammates, and Tyler came in and he got an opportunity as well. And part of that probably was, look, we weren't 100% sure who was going to be our guy, and maybe they were hoping that, that game would kind of solidify who their guy would be moving forward. And, it was just a tough situation. Obviously, a team like Furman, we felt like we, athletically were more gifted, and we felt like we obviously should have won that game, and it didn't turn out how we wanted to. But all you can do is support your team and hope for the best for whoever's on the field.
All right. Well, next week it's South Carolina, and before the game, at least it was announced publicly in the papers that you were going to be the guy. You were going to get the start. It was your game. It was your ball. Does that give you confidence leading into it? I know Mike had obviously talked about Tyler Harris coming in and playing well for a few games. Did you breed confidence off of that fact, knowing, hey, this is my game, this is my ball?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think not that any of our coaches or teammates didn't trust whoever was in the game. It's just when you're the guy and you feel like they're kind of making the game plan around your play style and different play calls and whatnot based on what the defense is doing and kind of associated with your play style. Yeah, definitely. I felt really confident going in, and also you have to remember that was my third game playing of college football, and I felt just in those 3 games I had learned a lot, and I felt more confident than ever just based off of playing experience. And so I was feeling really confident going into South Carolina.
Well, that game was another first for you. Your first touchdown pass to a guy by the name of Traquan Smith, who went on to have a pretty good career. What do you remember about that first TD pass?
Oh wow, it was crazy. It was really cool moment. It was a great drive. I think we started on our own 1 yard line and went 98 or 99 yards all the way. And we had a couple. You feel the momentum going when you talked about kind of getting into flow as a quarterback. I think that drive specifically, if you go back and watch it, I was definitely in a flow, and our offense was in a flow. We had good play calls, and we felt confident, and it ended in a touchdown pass. And I was extremely excited after the touchdown pass. We had already scored once, I believe, and so being up against South Carolina, I know they weren't necessarily the best South Carolina team we've ever seen, but on the road at an SEC stadium and throwing your first touchdown pass, it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, we had the lead at halftime in that game. We were up 14-8, and then in the third quarter, things kind of slip away from us. A couple interceptions thrown by you. What do you remember about those throws? Is it something they did something maybe to disguise their defense a little bit, or is this a bad throw?
Yeah, so I think it was my second interception. One of them, I'll give Jordan Franks a hard time here because we're friends and I can do it, but felt like he should have made the catch. It kind of bounced off his hands and they made a good play. But all joking aside, that was I think it was the first one, and then the second one actually we ran the same play. We were going the other direction on the field. We ran the same play as the touchdown pass to Traquan, and I just read it wrong. They played Tampa 2 defense, and the linebacker dropped, and tried to hit the inside route, and I just threw it right to the linebacker. I should have just checked down, but that definitely is a momentum killer. I felt like I had a really good game, and that was a bad decision, and it obviously it cost us in the long run. But yeah, again another game that we were up at halftime and felt like we kind of had the game in our hands, and we had every opportunity to finish that game and go out and win it.
What does O'Leary say to you after one of those interceptions? I'm sure he doesn't realize that, or maybe he does, but at the time, if it's not your fault, he's still going to go after you anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know Coach O'Leary and how he rolls. So, pretty much, even if it was like, I think there's a video after that touchdown pass to Traquan that I think they show O'Leary, and, he's kind of like Belichick with just no emotion, basically. So, that's just how O'Leary rolls. And so I'm sure he gave me a hard time. I would imagine he had some fruitful language, if you will, that he said to me. So, it's just that's just part of being a quarterback. Obviously, you make mistakes. You try to limit the mistakes as much as you can, and turnovers are obviously a total game killer. So, I think O'Leary just probably said, "Hey man, get it together." Probably in a different, more spirited way, but get it together and get back out there.
When you go over the film the next week and he sees that maybe it's Frank's fault, does he go to you and say, "Hey, yeah, nothing you can do on that one"? Anything like that, or never?
No, I'm sure Jordan's going to hear this or see this and be like, "What the heck, Bo?" But no, I watched the film. I sat next to Coach Key on the plane back, and overall, I felt like I had a pretty solid game, and it just, things didn't work out, and a couple turnovers will kill you in any game. And so, I think it's, like I said, football is the ultimate team sport, and, it's no one's fault. If everyone doesn't do their job on one single play, then the play is, simply not going to work well. So, I don't think he ever blames it on one person or it's just, hey, get it together and get better. So
I'm gonna go on a limb and say there's no point in his career that Coach O'Leary's ever said, "Hey man, get it together." There are some other words involved anytime that's gonna come up. But
yeah,
next week you guys play Tulane. You get to start again. You threw an early TD, but you were, I remember watching this game. You were under duress all day. Looked it up. You were sacked 7 times that day. You were just kind of running for your life. There was another fumble in there, and Tyler ends up coming in again and kind of finishing out the game. Where's your confidence at that point? As a young quarterback, Mike asked earlier, you're kind of in, then you're out, then you get a game, then you're in, then you're out. Where's your confidence level at as a young QB at that point in time after that Tulane game?
Yeah, after that game, I think we were all a bit, we were all a bit down on ourselves just as a team, just haven't won a game yet and feel like there's a few different games, including Tulane, that we feel like we should have played better and could really, really should have won and felt like we had a good chance at winning. But, I think going into Tulane, like I said, although things didn't quite work out like at South Carolina and every other game, but I think personally my confidence as a quarterback was as high as it's been going into Tulane. I felt most comfortable with the playbook. I felt, most comfortable with my reads and everything, just simply because of experience. Practice, you can get as ready as you can possibly be, but, when it comes to game time, it's a different type of rep, and so I felt really confident and, I felt like we were moving the ball pretty well and unfortunately things just don't always go your way, but, a couple turnovers, like you said, a fumble and a couple interceptions, it just, it kills you. It kills your team and it makes it really hard to come back and win. So, yeah.
Well, next week we play UConn. Holman comes back. So where does that leave you? Once obviously Justin's back and you guys recognize he's going to play, where was that? Where was your status? Were you still considered the backup? Did you have any clarity kind of on where you were once Justin returned?
Yeah, I was still the backup, but at that point, Tyler and I kind of were in practice. I believe we're probably splitting reps, for the backups for the most part. It just kind of depend, and I would say most of the time it was probably each week whoever had the better practice was probably going to be the backup guy. It just really depended on our practice. And you mentioned Justin obviously coming back that weekend or that week, UConn, and you also mentioned how it was a pretty physical game at Tulane. I got hit quite a bunch, and so I was pretty sore and in a way kind of happy that Justin was back, and my body was feeling it pretty hard. But it was good to have Justin back, and we kind of as a team probably felt that it was good to have someone who's experienced back. But as a competitor and a quarterback, obviously I wanted to still be on the field, although I was banged up like we all were. wanted to be on the field, but just excited for Justin. That wasn't, too bad of an injury, and excited for him to be back.
Well, we know the story goes on. We keep losing, and we're losing every week. And then one day after the Houston game, O'Leary just announces that he's resigning. Did that come as a shock to you? Did you guys see the writing on the wall? Maybe there was talk. Maybe there's something was about to happen. Or how do you remember that day, hearing that news?
Yeah, I think I don't remember it perfectly. I think we all kind of knew it was coming at some point, just given our season and how it was going. So we kind of figured it was going to happen at some point. We just didn't really know exactly when. And I believe they just came in, I guess it was that Sunday, I assume, came in and Coach Barrett kind of took over the team as the interim head coach and just said, hey, things aren't going to change. We're still going to do what we got to do and do our best to win. But, that was just the situation. And, an unfortunate situation, obviously, O'Leary being a legend at UCF and having a really good career at UCF. It's just unfortunate that kind of went down that way. And that's how he had to leave UCF. But yeah, we just we had no choice but to keep going and keep trying our best.
Did George ever come in and speak to you guys? I mean, not only was he the coach, he was also the athletic director. So normally when the coach leaves, the AD will come in and maybe explain to the team what's going on. Was it just Coach Barrett that said anything, or did O'Leary actually have a word with you guys?
You know what? I couldn't even tell you. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing because I just don't quite remember. It was, it was just a crazy time, and everyone was pretty down on themselves. It was just a really tough time, thinking that, we were just trying not to go 0-12, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But that was our main goal. We just wanted to get out there alive and try to win a game. And so I don't even remember exactly how it all went down. It was all just kind of crazy at some point.
Do you think the team kind of just threw it in the towel at some point, or was this like a moment where everybody kind of said, we got to get this thing fixed? What was the reaction of the team after this?
Yeah, I think, we had a lot of different emotions. I'm sure I certainly did. I'm sure a lot of the other guys did as well. It was just a really weird time, and it was unfortunate kind of for everyone. But, at the end of the day, we still had to be at practice, and we still had to try to win games. It's like there's no reason really to go to practice if you're not going to try to, compete and do well. Otherwise, it's just, you're just wasting time. And so we really, came to practice and tried our hardest and did our best to win. We see all the memes and all that stuff too. The free beer and all that stuff, like that was, that sucked for us. We were like, this blows, and so we were doing our best to make people pay for beer. We didn't want them to get beer anymore for free. And if it wasn't even us getting free beer. So, I guess we could have, but that could have been a bad luck. But, it was just a crazy time, and it was just unfortunate. But, we wanted to do our best to win.
Well, obviously some pressure on you guys, right? I mean, you to your point, you want to kind of shut people up and at least get a W on the board. And you have Coach Barrett now as the interim coach kind of leading you guys for the last couple of games of the season. We don't talk enough about him, frankly. I mean, he's kind of like forgotten in some respects. What was he like as a coach? What was it like kind of playing for him? How was it different, I guess, from Coach O'Leary, who was such a big personality, had such a distinct way about him? How was Coach Barrett different when he was finally kind of in charge of the team for those last couple of games that year?
Yeah, I mean, I think he made an effort. Obviously, Coach Barrett was the quarterback coach, and so I had a very close relationship with him. But, I think he did his best, and he told us, hey, this is, things aren't going to change. I just happen to be the guy who's leading the team meetings, and then we're going to go off, and I'm still going to lead the quarterback meeting. And so, I think we all did our best to kind of do what we can to make the team better, and really we try to block out the noise as much as we could and put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try to win a ball game. But, I don't think things changed too much, really. We were just trying to do our jobs and doing better than we've been doing previously.
Well, the last two games were particularly rough, especially the last one, losing to the Cows. We ended up getting outscored 88-10 in the final 2 weeks of the season with ECU and the Cows. Take us to that final game. What's the emotion after the season's over? Is it, you said the word sad a few times. Is it sadness? Is it, in some ways, is it relief? Is it anger? What are the emotions once kind of that season's all said and done?
Yeah, I don't. I think a lot of it was probably a mixture of all kind of different emotions. Obviously we wanted to win, and we were really upset that we didn't get any wins. And it just kind of sucks being the team that doesn't win a game, and everyone talks about it, and particularly UCF after having a couple good seasons and conference championships and whatnot, and not being able to even win one ball game the next season. So I think that was really tough for us. But after the season, we were just I don't even know. I think it was probably, like I said, just a mixture of relief that the season's kind of over, and we were all pretty banged up. I think we had like 4 seniors or something like that. So we were just a young team and pretty all banged up, and just excited for the next opportunity in the off season to get better. And obviously we were looking out pretty closely for our next head coach, which is a big part of it as well. So I think we're looking out for that, and just going into Thanksgiving and just happy to spend some time with our families, and I guess kind of hopefully in our minds just kind of close that chapter of that season.
Yeah, coaching changes are always a tough thing to go through. You committed to O'Leary, you committed to playing in that style offense. When he's gone, what's your strategy going into the offseason? Are you going to wait around to see who the new coach is, or do you kind of make up your mind that maybe this isn't the right spot for you? What was going through your head?
Yeah, I was definitely going to wait and see who it was. There was no doubt about that. I felt like that although I could have done better as a quarterback, I got an opportunity to play, and, I had definitely had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and thinking that, I was ready to compete for the job for the next season, regardless of who the coach was. And then Coach Frost gets announced, and I go through all the spring workouts and all that stuff with Coach Frost. He's a great coach, great guy, and ultimately decided that just with that offense that he brings from Oregon, of course, it just wasn't the right offense for my play style. It had nothing to do with him or anything else like that. It was simply because of the play style, and I told him, hey, I think I'm going to explore some options, and he was on board with it. He said he was willing to help in any way he could. He's very helpful, and is a really good dude. So ultimately decided to transfer, and ended at Pitt. So definitely a switch up from a lot of different perspectives, but ended up at Pitt.
Yeah, you mentioned that meeting with Frost. When he hands you that playbook and you see all the option runs and all that stuff, is that what he just basically said? All right, I'm out of here.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, in my college career, I had 5 different head coaches when it was all said and done, and so I learned quite a few playbooks. That being one of them. Definitely didn't learn it probably to the full effect as guys who stayed around, but it was definitely a different offense, and it was definitely a different play style in general, and that was something the whole team was having to buy in, and it was different than what we were used to, but definitely, turned out to work. And, I think our quarterback coach, Mario Verduzco, I'll never forget. He's pretty crazy character. I don't know how much you guys know about him, but he, was helping us learn the playbook and had a lot of funny tips and a lot of different ways to help learn. But, definitely a different playbook, and obviously worked out.
Well, take us through your career after UCF. Obviously, you mentioned that you decided to go to Pitt. You have to sit out a year. This is before everyone can transfer freely, right? So you sort of get dinged for being a few years ahead of the curve there. So take us through your career after UCF. I know you were at Pitt, then you spent some time at Texas A&M. Take us through where you ended up after UCF.
Yeah, sure. So, once I finished at UCF, I went through all the spring practices, the spring workouts, and decided I was going to transfer before spring ball even started. So, once I had decided to do that, I had some conversations with some coaches that had recruited me in high school, and one of them being Matt Canada, who was the offense coordinator at Pitt at that time. He had recruited me and offered me when he was the offensive coordinator at North Carolina State when I was in high school. So had a coaching connection there, and thought it was a good situation being in a big conference, a Power 5 conference, and a pretty good situation as far as quarterbacks go. With Nate Peterman, I think he just had one more year. So the 1 year that I was had to sit out for transfer rules. was going to be Nate Peterman's last year. And so I felt like it was a good situation, sit out a year, learn the playbook, all that good stuff, and then come in and be the man. But, as a lot of things in my football career didn't quite work out. I just didn't. Turns out I don't like the cold too much, as I mentioned earlier, and Pitt it just wasn't the right situation for me, and so ended up transferring and ended up at Texas A&M, as you mentioned, and was able to finish out there. It was Kevin Sumlin who was my coach when I first got to A&M, and then I also got to experience Jimbo Fisher his first year as a coach at A&M. Was my last year at A&M. So had a lot of coaches, and it was definitely not the career that I was expecting to have when going into UCF, but definitely don't regret it. Met a ton of good guys, a lot of good coaches. Like I said, learned what felt like a million playbooks, but really enjoyed it all at the end of the day.
So what have you been up to since football? Are you trying to get into coaching? Do you kind of settle into the real world? What have you been up to since football?
Yeah, I guess you could say I've kind of settled into the real world. I'm back in Dallas where I grew up and went to high school, and so I've been living here since I graduated from Texas A&M. I'm currently in commercial real estate on the principal side for a multifamily acquisitions company. So definitely would say I'm kind of settled into the real world. I don't plan on going back into coaching or anything like that. Definitely enjoy watching football. Obviously love it. It's my favorite sport, no doubt. But yeah, just staying in Dallas. I just recently got engaged and going to get married here pretty soon, and just living life here in Dallas.
Awesome. So when you tell people about your UCF career, how do you sum it up? What do you tell everybody about your year in Orlando?
Yeah, well, I typically like to make a little joke out of it, being that we were the worst team in college football, or I think Kansas might have gone 0-12 too. I know there was talks about having a toilet bowl between us and Kansas, the two worst teams in the country, which we probably didn't even want to do. We were just ready to get home for the holidays, but yeah, I think I just say, look, we were the worst team in college football, and I was lucky enough to start a few games and got a lot of good experience as a quarterback. Learned a lot as a person, as a student of the game, and was with a good group of guys. It was just a tough season that a lot of things that had to go wrong went wrong, and it just is what it is, and we were better for it. So I think that's just kind of how I sum up my year. Then of course. I think I'm on the wrong side of history when we go 0-12, and then the next couple of years, obviously the national championship year. It's a kind of a historical 2 years or whatever it was, and so I was on unfortunately the wrong side of it, but it was a cool little piece of history, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
You continue rooting for UCF like in those years, or you're like, know a lot of the guys on the team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of my best buddies, even to this day, I had a really good group of guys that were my friends my close friends at UCF. My roommates were Mac Loudermilk, Joey Connors, and Matt Wright. So I was part of that crew with Wyatt Miller and all those guys. So of course I was still rooting for them. They're all my buddies, and just wanted UCF to do well regardless of who's on the field. But definitely since they were on the field, it was even an additional piece of rooting, I guess.
Yeah, if I told you after that season ended in 2015, if you're leaving Orlando, and I was like, hey, by the way, Bo, this team's going to go undefeated in 2 years, what would you have said to me?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be tough to believe, coming out of that season, but it's awesome. It really is awesome. It just shows, what a team can do, and with new coaching and new energy and just a new program. What Coach Frost came in and really put a whole culture change completely, and it was just a different. It was a different team, and people had to buy in. That summer or that spring workout, that spring semester, all those workouts and all that stuff. It was not easy, and we certainly didn't have easy workouts with Coach O'Leary. We had some pretty brutal ones. And so, it takes a lot for a team to kind of buy in after a season like that. And, just 2 years later, having an undefeated season and winning a big bowl game against, really good teams. So, yeah, it's really crazy. It's really good. It's awesome. It just shows, what a team can do when they all come together as one.
All right, so I got to know this one too. In years since you've left both schools, UCF and Pitt have played a couple times. We beat Pitt at home, and then the winning streak famously came to an end on the Pitt special for UCF in Pittsburgh. We lose by a point. Who did you root for in those two games, Bo? We have to know right now.
Yeah, I would say I definitely rooted for UCF.
All right, great answer.
UCF definitely has a strong place in my heart, especially playing for the Knights. So I definitely was rooting for the Knights, no doubt.
That's the right answer. All right. Well, you've been very generous with your time, but before we let you out of here, we end every interview with some fun questions, kind of rapid fire, movies, music, sports. You never know what you're going to get here. So are you prepared for these rapid fire, hard hitting questions?
I guess I'm as prepared as I can be.
All right. What's your favorite cereal?
Frosted Flakes.
Ooh, all right. Good call. Do you add an extra sugar, or do you got enough in the actual flake?
I think I got enough. Then you got to drink the sugar milk, of course.
Of course, yeah.
You ever cut up a banana and throw it in there?
Occasionally, if I'm trying to be healthy, maybe I'll throw some
healthy
berries. But, most of the time, I just stick with the sugar and milk.
All right, we got the NBA playoffs and the hockey playoffs going on right now. Are you a fan of any of these teams? Are you watching every night or no?
Yes, I'm a big Dallas Mavericks fan and big Dallas Stars fan. Last night was unfortunate and fortunate. The Mavs, of course, with a huge win in Game 7, won by like 700 points. And then the Stars, unfortunately, lost in OT also in Game 7. So I was disappointed. I did stay up to watch that game. But yeah, fan of Dallas sports.
How do you go into a day like the 2 Game 7s, 2 of your favorite teams on the same day at the same time, really? You must have
pretty much. It really helped that the Mavs were up by like 30 at halftime, and I kind of felt like the game was over, before it even started. So that definitely helped to flip over to the Stars game. And then I was watching golf too. I was rooting pretty hard. The golf tournament was also in Dallas. The Byron Nelson, rooting pretty hard for Jordan Spieth, who went to Jesuit, where I went to high school. So he unfortunately ended up second place, but it would have been if he would have won and then the Stars would have won, it would have been a really big win for Dallas sports in general.
You mentioned a lot of young players. Our defense that year had a lot of young guys that obviously names that people will remember. Tony Garrard, Jemias Pittman, Titus Davis, Brendan Hayes. You had both the Griffin brothers, DJ Killens, Kyle Gibson was back there, Neville Clark was young, Richard Causey. Who on the defense during practice scared you the most? Was there one guy that you were like, this guy's not? I'm kind of scared of this guy. Who scared you the most on defense?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Luckily as a quarterback, you're kind of soft in practice just because no one can hit you. So you're kind of. I guess I'm lucky in that sense because we definitely had some guys up front that that were trying to take my head off if they had the opportunity to. I don't know. I don't have I think in practice I was just trying to make sure that I was doing as best I could and trying to just make the right read. So I don't even know if I could even pick someone.
All right. If I told you won the lotto tomorrow morning, what's the first thing you're going to go buy?
Wow.
Going and buying a private jet, flying to Vegas with all my boys. We're going to have a Vegas trip on me. And, I think you can imagine what goes down in Vegas. So I'll leave it at that.
Sounds like fun. I got to become one of your boys.
Yeah, we got to get on that. I need on that. I need on the PJ. You mentioned obviously you had a great time in Orlando, right? What's one thing you didn't miss about being in Orlando?
Oof. I mean, I guess you could say the main thing, I love the warm weather, but walking to class in the Orlando heat was not fun. I'll tell a quick story. I had a class with my buddy Wyatt Miller, and we were walking to class together, and it was the first day of class, and he's like, "Oh, I got to go to the restroom." When we finally got there, I was like, "Okay." He comes out with a different shirt on. I'm like, "You have a different shirt on?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I bring 2 shirts because I sweat through the first one on the way here." So I think not having to walk to class in that heat where you're just sweating like crazy is probably something I don't miss.
All right, you're a pretty big guy with like 6'3", 225, something like that. But
yeah, I wish I was still 225, but yeah.
Do you have any phobias? Does anything scare you?
I I mean, not anything like super bad. Like, obviously, don't love snakes or like spiders and anything like that. But I wouldn't say I have like some crazy phobia around them. But I'm certainly not trying to get near them or touch them. I mean, heights. There was one point in my life where I wanted to go skydiving, and now I'm like, there's no chance I'll ever do that. So maybe heights would be one now.
Yeah. I wouldn't want the guy strapped to my back. I think that's the main reason I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I think that and the fact that you're jumping off of a flying airplane is another part of it too.
It's something to do with it.
Yeah, it's a perfectly good airplane. There's no reason to jump out of it. Who on the team in your time there? Who did the best Coach O'Leary impression? We've heard from a lot of people. We unearthed that everyone called him the White Horse whenever he was kind of coming around. But who on the team did the best impression of Coach O'Leary when he wasn't around?
I'd probably have to give it up to Joey Grant. You know, he had been there. He's a vet, obviously, and spent a lot of time around O'Leary, and so he did a pretty good impression. And I think I'd probably have to give it to him.
Do you do one or no?
I probably could, but I don't know if it would be completely appropriate if I did
it. All right. What's your favorite TV show?
Right now, Peaky Blinders.
I've heard about that. A lot of people say that's a good show. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, though.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, obviously, I like all the classics, the Game of Thrones, the Breaking Bad, all the main ones like that. I like to watch as well. But actually, Yellowstone as well was pretty good, and 1883, all those. So, I'm a pretty big show guy. When I have the time, I like to watch them.
You're not old enough to go back to like Sopranos, right? You didn't watch any of those?
No, I have been told that I would love The Sopranos. I'm a big mafia guy. I like to watch all those movies. Like Goodfellas is like my favorite movie ever, so I'm sure I would like it. I just have to find the time. I tried to watch it a few times, just pretty slow show getting going, so I just need to kind of grind through the first few episodes. I'm sure I'll like it.
Yeah.
Well, Bo, we appreciate you hopping on and being a good sport. I know some of these memories probably aren't the most fond ones of your collegiate career, but we definitely appreciate you coming on, giving some more insight to that season, and obviously only got to see you for 1 year at UCF, and wish we could have had you for more than that, but we're definitely glad you're able to hop in and share some memories and be a good sport about it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me on. I really enjoyed, unlocking some of these memories. Haven't thought about it in a little while, so definitely enjoyed talking about it.
All right, well, hopefully we'll catch up with you soon, okay? Be well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
This is UCF Athletic Director Terry Mohajir, and in my spare time, when I'm not on TikTok, I'm listening to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Go Knights and charge on!
All right, Mike, that was Bo. Appreciate him for hopping in, being a good sport, and walking through 2015. I'm sure that was not easy for him, but Bo, big appreciation from Mike and I for you hopping in this week. And Mike, we got Cal of the Week. We do this every week. We name somebody something that is kind of annoying or did something kind of idiotic or something like that. But you told me before I hit the record button, you've got some updated information that you want to share with the audience. I don't want to hold you back anymore. What's this updated information?
Yeah, we're talking about all the schools that we owe a beating on. This one slipped my mind, but I'm looking through all the records here. Nevada. We owe Nevada from that Hawaii Bowl in 2005. That game, that's the only time we ever played them. And, we know the story that Matt Prater missed extra point, blah, blah, blah. So I'd like to get another shot at those guys if we ever can. And how far are they from Vegas? It can be a decent road trip game, right? Set up a little 1-on-1.
Okay. Look at this is the amount of research you've done in the last 15 minutes has been impeccable. I mean, this is quality effort on Mike's part. So far, Mike's scheduled Nevada, Furman, and Georgia Southern on her upcoming schedule, and South Carolina. So.
Arizona State, another one. 0-1. They beat the hell out of Schneider that day. I mean, I forget what the final score was. It was like 49-10 or something.
Not Bo Schneider, Ryan Schneider.
Yeah, that's Ryan Schneider. 0-1 against them. There's a lot of schools we owe. Looking back on the records now. Michigan, how about the beating they put on us? That was the only time we ever played them. Ohio State, 0-1. Nebraska, the famous we were winning at halftime game. let's get that one back on their schedule.
Ooh, that would be so. That's interesting, right? That's a payback game because there's more at stake there, right? There's some bad blood fan base wise. I like where your head's at there. Is that a top 5? So far, I think your top 5 in no particular order right now is South Carolina, Furman, Georgia Southern, and the Cows because you want to get back 64-12. So do I have that first 4 correct?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Now looking at it, we got the record against the Cows. They may be out of the top 5.
Okay, so Cows are gone. So now you got 3. So the first 3 are solid: South Carolina, Furman, and Georgia Southern.
Okay, and then you got Nevada, and I'd like to get Miami. Now, Miami is we just got our taste of beating Florida in the bowl game. I would love to beat Miami.
Okay.
They've gotten loud. Now the whole Cristobal crew, there's Ruiz character that's funding all their players. I'd love to smack them around and shut them up a little bit.
Okay, so that's Mike's official top 5 who we need to get back games, different from the segment we did prior to this when we listed a bunch of other schools. So that's Mike's official top 5. Mike, do you have an official cow of the week? I know I usually ask you this before the break. I got so excited about this news, I didn't. So I feel like I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm suspecting that you have some options in front of you here, but do you have a cow of the week?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
I got a cow of the week.
All right, you never know with you. Okay.
The NHL.
I knew you were going there, yeah.
Yeah, I knew you were. Commissioner Gary Bettman, they really dropped the ball on this one. We got the Florida Panthers finally making it into the second round for the first time since 1996.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Van Beesbrook, Jovanovski, Billy Lindsay, Scrudlin, all those guys. You know, it's been a long time. I remember the run very clearly, and we're very excited about the team down here. I'm going to the games. I'm going to watch parties. I'm getting pumped up. And this doesn't affect me as much as everybody else. But how many people down here that are into the Panthers and now bandwagon fans of the Panthers, which are welcome, into the hockey now, because the hockey playoffs are exciting, more exciting than anything. But they're also Miami Heat fans. And now the Miami Heat are in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm.
Their schedule was set already. They already knew what days they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
It was very simple. The last week was perfect. They were both in the playoffs, and they played every other night.
Mm-hmm.
And people were having a great time down here. You know, every night you got something to watch. Now they have the games on the same days. 6 out of the 7 games are scheduled for the same day. And this is something that could have been avoided. This is something they could have seen in advance. And I guess it all came down to TV and ESPN, whichever they got to pick which series they wanted. And they took the Rangers and Carolina, which – I mean, I get it. It's New York. It's the Rangers. But when you factor in this series, the Panthers and the Lightning is going to be an incredible series. It was a great series last year. And factor in the Lightning. The Lightning are 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. Let's not act like nobody wants to watch them. They got some good players on there. This is going to be a battle. It's going to be the best series of the entire playoffs. I'm predicting that right now, even though we just had, 5 Game 7. I think this one's going to be a knockdown, drag out every single game. You're going to have a couple overtime affairs in here, a lot of late nights. But now, you know, if you're a South Florida fan, what are you going to do? What if you want to go to one of the games? And, you're completely locked out of watching the other one. It's something that could have been fixed. And they even skipped Saturday. You know, they get 2 extra days off because there's a concert in Tampa. And then they schedule back-to-back games on Sunday and Monday. Why not, once you switch it to Sunday, then stay on rotation there, and then the problem solved again. There's so many other ways they could have handled it. They could have done that and switched the Rangers, maybe give the Rangers a back-to-back and even things out. And now the winner of that series is going to have an advantage playing the winner of this series. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's all for TV. It's all about the money. You know, let's do what's right for the sport, what's right for the fans for once, instead of what's right for these guys' pocketbooks. It smells like crap. And Gary Bettman, the league had authority to switch it. Even after the TV companies pick their games, the league has authority to overrule and change the dates if they need to, and they chose not to do it. And for that, they are cow of the week.
Was this World War II? Is that what's going on here with Cats and the Lightning?
This means roar, baby. This means roar.
Yeah, look, it's, admittedly, I'm more of a basketball guy, so I'm going to watch the basketball over the hockey. But I would have, in a normal construct, had hockey on those off nights, maybe not watching it as intently, but at least have it on or have it sort of ready to be watched. But obviously now that sort of makes it a tad more impossible for a fan like myself. I would be that bandwagon guy you're talking about, Mike, and it's going to be tough for me to hop on the bandwagon when I'm going to have to watch my Heatles, who also drew an 8:45 tip time tomorrow, by the way, which is just stupid because they have to do the draft lottery before the game. Yeah, from what I understand, I was reading on today, it sounds like it's an ESPN thing. That's kind of what drove or dictated that. It does sound like at least the Panthers are saying that they advocated for, they requested to not be the same night as the Heat. But I don't know if that's a Bettman thing. I don't know if that's an ESPN thing. But it does suck for fans of South Florida. Now, if you're not going to be at games, obviously now you're dual screening it, right? Which probably makes it a little bit hard. But maybe is more fun. Maybe one could argue you got two at the same time. If they're both tight or something, you got some good action going everywhere. But to your point, if you want to be in the arena, you got to make some tough decisions.
Yeah, we just talked to Bo Schneider, and he went through the same thing with his teams. They're both playing Game 7s at the same time. He got lucky because one of them was a blowout, and he was able to focus on the other one. That's not going to be the case here every night in these series. Selfishly, don't tell anybody because I just named them Cal of the Week, but it actually works out better for me because now that the Heat are playing at the same time home games, I think this drops the price of the tickets for the Panther games in case I may go to one or two. A little bit more on sale now, maybe a little better bargaining price. May have worked out in my favor. And you mentioned game one of that's another thing with the NBA. 8:30, but really 8:45. I mean, what are you doing there? Those games are not going to get over until 12 o'clock. At least the hockey starts at 7. By the time the Heat start, you're already maybe starting the third period over here. So maybe you can work it out. I think if you start watching all the hockey game, right, you record the basketball game. By the time you finish the hockey game and you start the basketball game, you could catch up and finish that thing in real time too, and you don't have to watch any of the commercials. And it may work out for games 1 and 2 at least.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel for the South Florida, the actual South Florida sports fan. You said South Florida, the actual South Florida sports fan who's got to choose between Heat Panthers because it sucks. It definitely does. It could have been avoided, to your point. It would have been a nice, perfect setup the way things would have worked out. But TV, greed, ESPN, what are you going to do? Get in the way. I got a couple Cows Week options, Mike. I mentioned the Cows already off the top. So the Cows sent out a graphic saying they're the number 2 seed in their bracket. Turns out they're actually the number 3 seed in that bracket. They had to rescind that graphic and put a new one up. And obviously getting ruled by UCF in the championship game. So the Cows are always good options. Mike, did you see what happened to Max Scherzer over the weekend?
Yeah, we're throwing out the first pitch and all that.
Yeah, so Max Scherzer pitches for the Mets now. Who knew, by the way? It was a ceremonial first pitch night. It was part of the celebration, I think, for Japanese heritage, and they had some local dignitary of Japanese descent who was going to come and throw the pitch out. Max Scherzer got to the mound first and began his warm-up tosses and would not leave the mound, and so they did not throw out the ceremonial first pitch. The guy just stood next to him, Max Scherzer, for a few seconds. Some poor intern ran out and grabbed him off the field, and no first pitch was thrown. Like Max Scherzer, not here for your first pitch.
Oh man, these pitchers, they are creatures of habit and don't mess with their routine. They don't want to hear anything about it. So I agree, it's a jerk move, but at the same time, the Mets got to know this in advance. Somebody in the Mets screwed up. They needed to get him out there, the guy that was throwing the first pitch, out there earlier, get the ceremony underway, or they got to hold Max back before he even gets out of the dugout. Once he crosses those lines, forget it. He's got his game face on. There's no stopping him. But I thought it was pretty funny when I heard it.
It is funny. It is actually pretty funny. Cow of the Week for the Phoenix Suns, who, Mike, were down by 40 at halftime in Game 7. You can lose some Game 7s. It's going to happen, but down by 40 at halftime. Oof. And then Cow of the Week to Gus Malzahn, Mike.
Ooh.
Yeah,
oh boy.
Gus Malzahn. And maybe even Chip Lindsey. Maybe both of them. Because I learned this weekend that, obviously, Gus and Chip, I know they're big on scouting quarterbacks and they're quarterback whisperers of sort, right? That's kind of the phrase we use. And I learned this weekend about a prospect that I was disappointed to see that UCF had no interest in. And he unfortunately signed with another school. Disappointed to learn that we were not in on the General Booty recruiting. Like, General Booty is the actual name of the kid, and he's going to Oklahoma, Mike. We could have had a guy on our team named General Booty, and I don't know why we didn't do that.
That seems like a NLI, jackpot.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna go nuts on that one. And there's lots of booty, some fat booty. I don't know.
Pirate booty, I think, is a popcorn treat, right, of some sort. Like, there's so many options available to. I'm just mad that you and I didn't get to do a podcast each week where we got to talk about general booty.
Yeah, and we don't get to come up with nicknames for booty.
Nothing.
Yeah.
General Booty reporting for duty. I mean, we get none of that. I mean, it's just we got nothing here, and Gus just really let us down. I mean, we've got to fill hours of content each week, and I could have used a General Booty on my roster to help me out, but Gus is no, need the right quarterback. We can not. Why help out the Suns UCF? So we get no General Booty. He goes to Oklahoma to play with another guy who may be an ass. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, he must be a pretty good quarterback too if Oklahoma's recruiting him. So yeah. We missed out on this one.
We did.
But,
yeah. So those are my
booty for us.
Those are my cow of the week options. You can choose whoever one is your favorite, Mike, and you can choose to follow us on social media at Sons of UCF, wherever you do that kind of stuff. Make sure you're subscribing to that YouTube channel. We have the Jada Cody interview out there, which was awesome, Mike. We got a bunch of Trace Trocco and Greg Lovelady conversations that you can browse through, getting yourself prepared for the baseball tournament coming up here. All of the live shows are archived there, so Sons of UCF on YouTube is where you're going to want to be at. You can also check out the website, twonightsmedia.com. Don't forget, Thursday nights, we usually do a live show. This week, it'll be Wednesday, so if you're listening to us right now, look at your calendar. If it's Thursday, the live show already happened. Go and watch it. If it's Wednesday, the live show's tonight. Make sure you're there, 8 p.m. Adam, Mike, and Trace will bring you around the kingdom, everything UCF related, Mike. But that's all the show we got for this week. I'm out of content. I got no more General Booty, so we have to end now.
All right. I have to go to the bathroom. I've had to go for the last 20 minutes, so
okay.
We can end this thing right now.
All right, well, everybody, Mike's got to go, and so do we. Go Knights.
Charge on.